welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. Today's guest is Mike Fallat. Mike, I started a relationship with you here recently. You helped get my book that we had written and published to #1 bestseller. So there is a lot of things that fascinates me about what you guys are doing. So welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. You're outspoken on social media like me, and I like working with people who stand by their beliefs and fight for them, if you will. So
that's right. Yeah, I can't wait to dive deeper into that. So let's talk a little bit about your company. So Dream Starter Publishing. How long have you had the business?
About 2015, 2016 is whenever it took off. I wrote a book, it changed my life, and that's when people started coming to me saying, "Hey, can you help me with my book?" And I'm like, "Wait a second, there's a business here." So that's why we converted everything into the book business, and we took off from there. We've done 256 books since.
That's awesome. So what was the book that you wrote that changed your life?
Dream Starter, the startup business guide for the die-hard entrepreneur. And it's amazing, is that book, that title, turned into my Instagram name, turned into the business name. So I realized the power of branding. It's a new identity that you can create with a book. So it happened with my first book. And that's why it's easy for me to share that message with others. But Dream Starter is still up on Amazon. It generated thousands of leads based off of a PDF that I gave away for free. And yeah, life-changing.
That's awesome. And I reached out to you recently because I've got a couple ideas for some new books. So looking forward, I will be using you guys for all of those services. So so let's talk about when you say it generated thousands of leads, kind of being the authority in the space. I mean, do you feel that any business owner, that it might be a good idea to get a book out, or is it for certain people? What are your thoughts?
100%. I was struggling to get speaking gigs. I was struggling to get attention online. I wrote the book and people looked at me differently. So I only had one successful business out of 5, or maybe you could just call it 4 failures. 4 failures led to 1 success, which got me about $30,000, $40,000 in a year. That sounds like, whoa, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, right? But it changed my life whenever I had a successful business. So it was a dog product service, direct-to-home dog product service. I love dogs. I was at dog shows giving away treats and everything. And people started thinking, wow, Mike, you're doing something right. Can you help me with branding? Can you help me with sales? Can you help me with marketing? And of course, I was no Elon Musk. I was no Jeff Bezos. But I knew enough that could help someone if they were starting from zero to get off the ground. And I think that I'm leagues above where I was then, but I knew enough to help someone that was maybe not at my level then. So I believe if you started a business, if you've done anything that was difficult, if you overcame adversity, if you went through a divorce and you came out on the other side as a better person, whatever it is, your past was a mentor. And if your past was a mentor and you were able to do something great, maybe your past could be someone else's mentor. So writing a book is crucial for anybody, but once you realize the power of writing and how clear you get on where you were and where you're going, now it's more of a personal development tool. So it's great for the audience, it's great for people, but it's great for you as the leader of your life.
Yeah, and it also, it probably could be some type of form of therapy, someone, like you said, that's gone through a bad divorce or overcome adversity or, maybe overcome a drug addiction, to be able to tell that story or to get it out of your brain and get it onto pen and paper and turn that into a book. And then possibly, I've heard those stories where people have read a book that someone else wrote and your book changed my life, right? And it's like what that could do for you. You may have overcome a drug addiction. You may be living every day just trying to make sure you're still fighting and winning that addiction. But if you wrote a book about it and you started hearing your impact on other people's lives, that may jumpstart you, to be a world-renowned speaker. You never know.
100%. We hear it all the time. Not only do they become more certain about their life, but once they realize their story, their past has helped someone else, it gives them a little pep in their step. They have a little bit more confidence to share that message. And it might take that one specific person to say, holy smokes, your background, what you went through is very similar to mine. You mean to tell me that you made it and you got out of drug addiction and you got through that divorce and you went through that lawsuit and you came out stronger? It takes one sentence or one quote. Think about the power of seeing a meme, how it could change someone's life on social media. What about actually seeing someone as the guiding light or the example? And you now have a pathway to say, as long as that person did it, I know I can do it, and I'll just follow in that person's footsteps. Yeah. So it's pretty crucial for people to realize that one thing you say up on a stage or on a podcast could really be meaningful, could change the trajectory of someone's life. And if you could put that in a book and someone reads it now or 3 generations from now, you do your service as a human being. You add value to the world around you.
You know, you think about some of the people that you and I read their books and we listen to their podcasts and stuff. I mean, you know, you fast forward, I mean, you rewind 15, 20 years ago, they're just regular ordinary people, you know, getting out of high school, getting out of college. I mean, they probably, something happened in their life that was that pivotal moment that made them all of a sudden become who we see them as today. And I think it's important, you know, that if people listening today, if your husband or your wife or, you know, whoever in your life has a story to tell, you know, encourage them to possibly, you know, you put that story in a book, because people, regular ordinary people, need to hear that there's people out there just like them that are going through the same stuff, right? You know, sometimes it's hard for us to read or see the story of somebody that's uber successful and they're multi-millionaire, billionaire, and it's like, oh, you know, they're different, right? Like they think they were born that way, that they didn't create that wealth and that success themselves. So I just think, you know, if you're listening and you feel that you've got a story that can impact someone, get it out there, right? And I think it really could be beneficial for you to even tell that story and kind of get it out of your head. You know, I was watching something recently where they talk about memories, and that like something that your brain does like every year or every, you know, but your brain starts to forget the exact memory of an event. And starts to retell it or rewrite it a certain way in your head. And like they say, like 10, 15 years later, that what you actually remember from that event is so much different than what had actually happened, you know? So it might be really beneficial that when you're coming out of one of, you know, whether it's adversity or if it's something positive or, you know, loss of a child or getting over drug addiction, whatever it may be, like if you're here to tell that story today, there's a lot of people who aren't. There's a lot of people who've given up, right? So, man, I encourage you, get with Mike and his team and look at maybe getting that, you know, that story out for other people to be able to hear.
Yeah, great way to put that. If you write it down, it becomes tangible. Jim Rohn always talks about this, that whether it's a goal or when you're going to the grocery shop or whatever you want to accomplish with your life, as long as you're able to write it down, it becomes real. And so it reminds you on a day-to-day basis of where you did come from, but maybe where you want to go and who you want to become in the future or how you want to be remembered. Writing does something to the brain. It formulates your life. And the more you do it, the better you get at realizing that every chapter should be getting better. You should be a little bit wealthier tomorrow than you are today. You should be living a life that's pretty exciting, because if you make your life tangible on a piece of paper, you're going to evaluate, is my life exciting or not? Is it worth reading or not? And it forces you to level up, whether you know it or not.
So how old are you, Mike?
37.
37. So I'm 39. I got a birthday coming up in like a week or two.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, man, I'm going to Vegas for my 40th. Gonna make it one for the record books.
Love it.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're 37. Let's just get in on. You and I are very outspoken on social media. We're not scared to call a spade a spade. We're both business owners. I honestly tried. I've been told that that I even on the side of lean towards the side of radical at times, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm at a place in my life where I feel that I can speak up and say the things that I don't, I'm not in fear of losing my job over, right? And I feel kind of like what I'm talking about the book. Like if you've got something, that a story that you could tell and could possibly make an impact to somebody else. Well, I'll tell you, over the years, numerous. I mean, I'm talking crazy amounts of people hit my inboxes and thanking me for saying the stuff that I say, because they work for corporate America and they're like, we can't put any of that out. We'll lose our job. And I'm like, you know what? And there's been times over the years my wife's like you should really like some of the stuff you put out there. And I'm like, you know what? The people that continue to hit my inbox, like, I'm doing it for them now, right? Because I feel the way I feel, and I am who I am, and I'm lucky and thankful to be, I guess, in an industry or work with a niche of people that are blue-collared, hardworking people, typically lean, very much to the right. And, so I don't really get any pushback. I've actually turned it into a marketing campaign. So like, I'll put stuff out there and it's just who I am and how I feel. And then all of a sudden people will like it or comment on it, and they happen to be at HVAC or plumbing, owner. And then I'll inbox them. And I'm like, hey, look, apparently we're like-minded people. And like you said, when you came on here, like, I love working with like-minded people. So we ought to have a coffee, we ought to have a virtual coffee or have a phone call or something and kind of talk about things. And, I've picked up several clients that way. So I'm just not scared of being who I am. But tell me what got you, I mean, granted, you're only 2 years younger than me, but it's still, the younger the generation gets, the less they either want to get involved in speaking up, or they've kind of gotten into the system, the education system, where they're almost radical with some of their beliefs until they actually start working and have to pay for things on their own, and then they realize that the Bernie Sanders method isn't really going to be really good for them and their families. So, what pushed you down that path?
2016 was the moment that my life changed. I started to make some headway with my business, and you could say that whenever Trump ran, I remember thinking to myself, finally, we got an outsider here. Now, I really didn't know much about Trump. I read his books, but whenever I was sitting there and watching how he responded to questions and how the media started treating him, I'm like, this is it. This is the guy who's an outsider, who's actually fighting against the system. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, everybody can see it. And I would go around my current friends at the time, and they were all, I come from a blue collar world. All right. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. These individuals around me, all my friends, were thinking what the media was telling them. Oh, he's a racist and he's this. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Have you ever read his books? And do you realize he's been a friend of Oprah for years? And what are you talking about? The media loves this guy. The moment he started speaking out, I realized, like, something's off here. And I realized my friends were on the opposite side of who I was. But I've had this business. I've been an entrepreneur since 2008. I'm 8 years into being an entrepreneur. I've started to get a little bit smarter of how the world really works. And that's whenever it kind of hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a different cat than I was in the beginning. Because I guarantee in 2007, I remember saying to myself, Trump is just this guy who's born with a silver spoon and all this stuff, just like everybody else says. No. And I woke up. It changed me whenever I started to understand the business world and how the world really worked. So that moment was whenever I started to say, you know what, I got to dive deep on my beliefs. Because I know something now that I didn't know. So I'm going to start to be a little bit more outspoken. It started to work in my favor with business, because people started saying, Mike, I can't believe you have the courage to say that. I'm with you. I did create a lot of enemies. A lot of my old social circle stayed away from me. And I noticed my business started to pick up. So guess what happened in 2017, 2018? My business started to really roll. I was able to hire people. I was able to get team members, writers, and all that were believing the exact same thing as me. So that's the moment. And maybe if you guys want to remember this moment for your life, that if you start looking for friends that you do business with, you're going to yield much greater results than trying to find business associates that become friends. So by making friends with people, hey, you have the same values, you have the same beliefs, you have the same viewpoints on the world, we're friends. We could do great things together. Oh, you want to do business with each other? Awesome. And then I took that even a little bit further, and I started to realize that the more successful I became and got into these different circles, they want to know where you stand on something. They want to know where you are at before they allow you in their circle. So the more outspoken I became online, there was no gatekeeper anymore. They said, you know what? We believe in what you're saying. Maybe I can't be as vocal as you, but I know where you stand. And if shit hits the fan, I know where you're going to be. Come on in. Let's do some business together. So it only served me in more ways than just the business with Dream Starters. It served me in many other investments and opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of our core values here at Cornerstone is transparency. And I truly believe in it with the results that we're getting with any of our clients' marketing campaigns. And I just feel like transparency really starts with the people that are running the company or that are behind the company. So for me, it's like, well, if I'm the face of the company, I think it's best for me to be fully transparent about who I am and what my beliefs are. And I'll tell you right now, like, I'm not a political person. Like I don't bleed Republican. What I bleed is just like calling the bullshit out, right? Yep. And it's like I can't stand. So I'll tell you what happened. 2000, I think it was January. It was like right at the new year of 2019. I made a commitment and said I'm gonna clean my social media profiles up, and for 1 year. I am going to not get involved in politics or post my opinion about things. And this was on the advice of one of my business coaches. And I said, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm telling you, Mike, I committed to it. And I did an extremely good job. So all of 19, nothing. And I said, you know what? If somebody wants to see any of the radical stuff that I put out there, then they'll have to go back, at least a year. Well, now you fast forward into 2020 and we get to March. And all of a sudden, the China virus comes out, right? And I still bit my tongue a good bit. And then people in my circle that own other marketing agencies that weren't fortunate enough to be in a niche that I'm in, which it was deemed essential, they were doing marketing for chiropractors or dentist office or daycares. Well, guess what? All of them got shut down overnight, right? So I had friends of mine that literally lost their entire livelihood overnight. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I just said, you know what? I just ripped the Band-Aid off and I just started putting what I felt out there. And my business coach, he contacted me and he's like, what are you doing? Like, you've done so good. I'm like, yeah, I just don't need an intervention right now, right? Like, this is probably isn't the time or place. And I tried, man, but it's like the more and more like just ludicrous that things really get, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how we're still wearing masks on the airplane, but you can take it down to eat your peanuts and drink your drink.
Come on.
Right?
Come on.
I'm not understand. Like, you got to wear it going into a restaurant, but if you're sitting at the table, COVID doesn't exist at your booth, and it's just like, the rationale behind this is just mind-blowing. I go to the gym and I see these people with masks and rubber gloves working out. And I'm like, stay at home in your bubble. Like, if you're that terrified. Like, I don't get it, But it's the shit that they keep putting out on the news, and that's what angers me. I don't care the political affiliation. I just care that it's just so much distrust that's being put out there, and people that are too busy or like they just don't want to get involved, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to trust the science. I'm going to trust what people say. And I'm busy working. I've got a family to raise. So they turn on the news or where, and it's like they get this information and it's fear mongering. And that's what's leading these people to, thinking that mask will work or, oh man, the vaccinations, right? It's like, they pushed the vaccine so bad, and they led everyone to believe that if you get the vaccines, life's going to go back to normal, right? And they told people that the vaccines were going to, allow you not to be able to contract COVID or be able to pass it to someone else. And I'm telling you that as much as I am against the vaccines, that if those two things were to be a fact, really just the latter, right? Like, if I knew that if I had the vaccine that I could not potentially give it to someone else who had a weakened immune system or, an older person, I would probably get it myself. But to know that it does not do either one of those, why, right? Why and why are they still pushing it? Why was some states giving away like beer and cigarettes or lottery tickets if you were to go get this damn vaccine? Donuts. And it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything, right?
Well, think about this. I mean, this is common sense right here. A virus is this living entity, right? I don't know how you could drink anything or take anything that's going to stop you from holding it on your body. Right now, you have about 15 viruses on your body somewhere, right? So your body, and this is not me just making this up, just do a little bit of research. It's pretty easy to find. Maybe you want to use DuckDuckGo, not Google, but you start to realize that a virus is a virus. Your dog can have 30 viruses on its body somewhere. You're still going to kiss it. You have an immune system for a reason. Yeah. So if you were to tell me, hey, by the way, if you drink this, you're not gonna be able to give anybody a virus. That to me is like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Or put this in your body. That makes zero sense because a virus is everywhere. There's thousands, there's millions potentially. So if you were to say that to someone and they believe it, now you're just going against common sense. And these people are going on TV every single day, saying one thing, doing another, and then people who are they call them conspiracy theorists. We're predicting everything that's happening now, like 6 months ago, a year and a half. It's all happening, and we're all thinking to ourselves, wait a second, we're smarter than the average bear if we're able to see the future. And I tell you this, Jonathan, I look at all this as a litmus test. If someone is in his car by themselves wearing a mask, I know for a fact that we're not going to be able to sit down and have a coffee together. Yeah. I know right in there, we're probably not going to get along to do business together. I know I don't want to give you money to invest because if shit hits the fan, you're going to run for the hills. And I know you're afraid. So I look at everything as a litmus test. I look at this as the greatest time to be alive. When people put the masks on, the real masks came off. I now know who you are as a human being. And so I look at this as hey, find your tribe now because it was never this obvious to find out who's in your circle or who's not.
That's right. So I'm real big with Sean Whalen and his Lions Not Cheap. And so I've got a lot of shirts and hats and everything else. And one of my neighbors one night, he was outside and he was like, so what's Lions Not Cheap? And I was like, well, I said it's an entrepreneur that he's like a business coach and public speaker, and I said this is his brand, and it's taken off since COVID, and he's like, well, I mean, but what does it mean? And I thought for a second, and like the best thing that could come to mind, I was like, this guy just moved here from upstate New York, so I was already labeling him for his political views, and was like, man, how do I say this? And I was like, you know what? My wife, man, she's always like, don't put that on our neighborhood Facebook page. What are you thinking? And I'm like, I'm thinking I want to establish who I want to hang out with at the park or the pool, right? Like, I'm just like putting it out. I mean, I'll tell you another story in a second. But I look at this guy and I said, lion not sheep, what does it mean? I said, all right, so the best example I can give you, I said, if you're at a red light and you look over and you see someone in their car by themselves and they've got a mask on, they're a sheep, and he was like, all right, I get it. And I'm like, I don't know how else to say it, right? I said, it's just, but yeah, like my wife's always like, cause I'm like you, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. And what it does, Mike, is I tell people like I live by these circles, like kind of like the tree trunk, and I don't have as many circles as a tree trunk, but it's like the smaller that circle is, like the smallest circle there is, it's the humans that live in my life every single day, right? Like my kids and my wife. But those other rings of circles are like those people that I know I can rely on, that would always have my back no matter what happens. And I just don't let many people inside my circles. It's just, I don't need it, right? Like I got like 5,000 Facebook friends and all this stuff. Like y'all can be in, like those circles are as big as the galaxy. I mean, like, I don't give a shit about anything, like if, what happens, from that aspect. But it's like those, because I think we can only consume so much, right? Like that's kind of the whole Zuckerberg and, what was his name? Apple guy?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, right? Like, your brain can only take so many decisions each day. Well, I also feel like there's only so much you can do for people, right? Like you can't just give them all of your resources. So it's like, I truly believe in like keeping a very, very tight circle of good people that when sugar turns to shit, like you've got people that you can rely on. And I agree, man. Like now more than ever, you better make sure you got those people locked down because look, now we got what's the new
Omicron?
Omicron, it's like...
and there's going to be another one. And there's going to be another one. And then, hey, by the way, when was the last time you ever saw a vaccine where you need 3 boosters within a year? I don't remember getting that for whenever polio vaccine came out. Did they actually create 3 shots right after? They're still calling it a vaccine. It's hilarious to me. It actually is funny that there's that many people that afraid of something that all of a sudden, by the way, comes into Africa 3 days later. They're able to say 75% of all new cases in the United States are all Omicron related. How are they testing for it? Who's believing this stuff? Who's selling it? And people are believing it. It's just crazy.
I know. And I'll tell you, that's the scary part for like people like you and I. Like that's what's scary to me is that there's that many people that are walking amongst us daily that think this way. Like that think that there's no additional thought process behind anything. It's like, oh, this guy on CNN said this. That is the gospel. It's like, what? Or this like Dr. Fauci. I mean, this guy's got more lies that is coming out of his mouth, and it's like there's an interview like, and it's still up on YouTube from like right after COVID broke. Like I think this was like from April of 20. Where he's on, I think it's on Dateline or
are you talking about the no masks? Masks are
where he's saying masks don't work, and then you fast forward like 2 months later, absolutely they work. And I'm like, wait a minute, this guy has been a medical doctor and professional for like 150 years. And now he's contradicting himself in literally 30 days. Not like new science came out and new studies came out and he's saying this. Literally a month later, he's got a different approach. Man, it's like, come on, just do a little bit of research. And I know that big tech is suppressing this shit as much as they can, but man, it scares me that when I'm gone, that my kids are gonna have to be around a world full of people that think like this. It's concerning.
Well, have you ever seen that Matthew McConaughey movie where he gets AIDS? You ever see that one?
Yes, yeah.
So people love that movie. It's an amazing movie, and I like Matthew McConaughey. So. I don't like a lot of Hollywood stars, but some of the things I've seen, I really like what he says. But that movie is based off of the pandemic of AIDS, and he goes through this political system of why can't he have certain drugs and why is this being put out, and the drug is actually worse than actually the disease and all this stuff. Well, you find out if you do any bit of research, Fauci's behind all of that. So if you were to say, man, that movie, that's incredible. And then you still don't look at Fauci and say, wait a second, you were the person that did all this.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing that people don't connect the dots. They're taking everything as gospel from the news. If you do not see that the news is not on your side, I don't know what to tell you at this point. I look at it as like, if I were to turn it on, I actually I have to question, like, are they people watching this for the news or for comedy? Because it's that ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So what are some things that you what advice could you give to someone? Like what are some places that you yourself go to get information when you're researching some of this stuff?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in taking bits and pieces from many different sources. So I will always look up if someone were to post a White House press release or a briefing, I'm going to actually read some of it to figure out what they're saying, and I'm going to see the contradictions. I will start to do a lot more research of going back and seeing videos from people who are posting on Twitter and seeing if it's real. Like there are people posting videos, and these are, I don't know if there's a lot of like accounts that I follow, so I don't know exactly any specific ones to recommend to you right now. There's a few out there, but anytime someone posts a video, I'll be able to go back and see whether it's on Rumble. I trust Rumble. I trust just looking at different videos, different pieces, and then doing some research to DuckDuckGo. But I make sure that, if you look back at certain videos that are still on Rumble, still all over Twitter, there are videos of like 2015 and 2012 of Obama saying that we're going to fund X amount of dollars for Wuhan so they can do X amount of studies. And then you'll be able to see that in 2015, everybody was predicting a novel virus in the year 2025. And it was going to be something along these lines. And it's exactly what's happening right now. And Moderna started creating the vaccine beforehand. So I watch all these videos. I do my own research, pull up press releases and briefings. And then you can obviously go through and do as much research as possible. So I'm not about going on TV. I don't watch any TV news at all. I do as much research through a lot of Google searches, a lot of DuckDuckGo searches, and watching videos that I see on Twitter and seeing the validity.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously anybody who's very famous and has a lot of money, I mean, they got to be being honest about everything, right? Like Bill Gates or, what was his name? The Harvey Weinstein. Like, like none of these people can be bad. Like they're important people. I mean,
you've seen the movie The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
So, you brought it up before, but people who do nothing, say nothing, act no different, and don't even know that the Matrix exists are technically on the other side. They're not your friend because they're just doing the devil's work. But once you see it for what it is and you realize how fake everything is, how scripted the news is, if you go from one town to the next, they're all kind of saying the same stuff, word for word. And then you start to realize that in order to get to Hollywood, they're doing all this dirty stuff and how to become successful. And you realize that the Hollywood and the media and big tech and big corporation, big money, all these people are all in on it. And the Band-Aid is ripped off. You're able to see it first and foremost. And if you don't make adjustments, if you don't start to adjust your life and start to realize that fiat money, your dollar's going down fast. If you're not investing your money, if you're not putting yourself out there, getting around the right people, if you're not creating assets like books and even podcasts, if you're not putting your message out there so other people can find you, you're wasting this time. This is a blessing. Don't look at this as all negative. Bill Gates out there has given so much money to media that if you think that anything that he's saying on the news is real and trustworthy, then you've lost your mind. It's all money driven. It's all power driven. And you could say to yourself, well, he has enough money. What else would you want? Well, if you go back into the psyche of any criminal, there is no amount of power that's given to someone and saying that's enough. Money and power will always lead somewhere. And if you see how much money's being made, if you see how much control, if you see how many freedoms are being stripped away, there is some type of incentive for these people to keep it going. And if you don't wake up and you don't make adjustments, then you're going to only blame yourself 20, 30 years from now. I'm seeing, Jonathan, I don't know if you're seeing it, but I'm seeing my friends become wealthier now than ever. And it's becoming so obvious of the bad guys' chess moves that they're going to say, well, real estate, okay, I'm going to be invested in this, because the moment they print more money, they go for another 2.5 trillion. The inflation's going to skyrocket. The dollar's going down. Prices of homes and real estate property and mobile home parks are going to go up dramatically. So all these people are making moves fast. The people who are not educated, who are not seeing it, who are inside the matrix and not aware of it, they're going down, and it's a shame to see.
Well, because they're inside. The matrix is their tube that they watch that has, what's his name? The guy, Lemon. They're listening to Don Lemon and Rachel Maddow, right? So it's like, and these people are just fear mongering, and that fear, not just of wear 12 pairs of rubber gloves fear, but also fear of, maybe another shutdown. Like, you need to protect your money, right? Like, cash is garbage, and you should be building assets as quick as you possibly can. I mean, cash has always pretty much been garbage, but now more than ever, like, it's going to be worth nothing, before long.
Yeah, people don't realize. I don't know how many people realize, like, fiat money really started to happen. You could go back to 14, but it's the 70s, the moment that we're completely off the gold standard. The more middle class and poor got so much more poor. Every time someone prints another dollar, you become a little bit more poor. Yeah. And if people start to realize the financial history, a book that I recommend is the the creature from Jekyll Island, you start to realize the finances of how everything is set up and how it's really against you, the person. People who are taking advantage of all this, like you said, getting their money out of cash, putting it into assets, so all the appreciation takes place. And maybe they still make the cash flow, but they're taking that cash flow and creating other revenue streams or other appreciating assets. You got to start doing that. And now it's easier than ever because you got crypto coming into play. Are you a crypto guy, Jonathan?
I am.
Yeah, crypto. You got Bitcoin. It's all deflationary. I mean, all this is a great time because I think it's speeding everything up, and you can really make some big moves pretty fast with the insanity that's taking place.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on NFTs?
I don't know much about NFTs. I know it's going to be the future. I can't figure out the utility yet. I know that I'm not a video game player. I know the power of certain utilities with NFTs within video games and how you could set it up. I don't have any NFTs. I'm a crypto guy right now. I'm into the blockchain. I know the blockchain is going to change the world, real estate, how that's done. But NFTs, it's still so new. I know it's going to be big, but I just don't know the game yet. So I don't have any money in that.
All right. So this is going to lead us down some other paths, but I was watching a podcast. I don't know if you saw a couple weeks ago with it was Gary Vee's podcast, and he had Zuckerberg on it. Did you see it?
No.
All right, so
as soon as Gary Vee started saying he was a Biden supporter, I stopped. I tuned him out. So keep going.
Well, I strongly suggest you watch it just to hear the absolute mind-boggling just garbage that Zuckerberg is saying. This guy talks about his, what is it, metaverse or whatever? Like, he talks about these other realities like it's you and I talking about taking our kids apart. Like, that's how normal he's just going, listen, so you're going to have multiple different realities that we're going to be living in here just in the next couple, right around the corner. And he said, so you're going to go to work, right? That's going to be one of your realities. You're going to go to work, you're going to have your job, whatever, but then you're going to come home and you're going to, put on your goggles or your headset and your gloves. And he said, then you're going to go into your other reality. And he, guy creeps me out anyways. Like, man, he screams pedophile like there's nobody else. But, some guys just give you the EBGBs. Like, he is one of them. I mean, it's like, man. But the way he references this stuff, man, it's like, it freaks me out. But then I also understand that because of my belief in extraterrestrial life, right? Like, I'm a big ET believer, that everything I've watched on alien life form, they predict that they're 500 million to a billion years more advanced than we are. And the reason why they one of the reasons they suspect that the other life forms will come back here is to kind of try to understand humans on Earth, because there's no relationships, there's no connections between their life form. Like, there's no they don't even communicate. Like, everything's done telepathically. And so I think they probably look at us going like, we've got these four-legged furry animals in our homes, and they sleep in the bed with us, and we kiss these things. Like, what is wrong with you people? Yeah. And to make other human life form, like, we're like really touching one another and like kissing one another, because obviously that's. But what makes me think about, and it saddens me, is you think about lives from, like, let's say the 60s, right? Like around the kitchen table and the movies and stuff, or the stories you'd hear. Like, you sat at the kitchen table and it was family time. Like, that's where you got connected. And now when you go to a restaurant or anything, like, or even in the home kitchen family, everybody's glued to their iPhone or their iPads and stuff, right? So, and this has just happened in literally 25 years. Everything has drastically changed. So it makes me truly believe that life form is that far advanced, because we're going down that same path. Now you got this whack job talking about, here in the next couple of years, like, that's what you're going to do. You're going to have one reality, and then you're going to go into this other fake reality. And it's like, No, it's a video game, right? Don't. It's not another reality. There's nothing real about it. You're still going to be in your padded room, walking around, running into damn walls and stuff, right? So, I don't know. Scary times.
Man, I watch everything I've ever seen of him. I don't go out and look at anything he's posting anymore or any video he's in, but I've never seen that man look and feel comfortable. If you see that in someone, there's something going on internally. He just doesn't seem comfortable in his own skin. So I hear what he's saying. I think that they're definitely going to try to build that. I know that the metaverse that he's building is not going to be for people like us, Jonathan. I know that for a fact. We're going to be banned. We're going to be stopped from posting. We're stopped from walking around. They're not going to be a fan of people like us in that metaverse. However, I do think there are going to be many different metaverses. People are going to be creating all kinds of these different video games where you walk around and see people. I think that as an opportunist, I'll be able to see it and say, how can I make money from this? But I will not ever think, oh, I cannot wait to live in the metaverse 24/7. I don't see it. I made a post about this the other day. I don't see people putting on virtual reality sets on a day-to-day basis in this generation. Maybe when kids grow up with it and that's all they do. I know that the motion sickness and all that can happen in people right now. I just don't see people falling in love with it. But maybe 20, 30, 40 years, it's a normal thing. I don't know if it's going to be around in this generation as much as he's saying it is, though.
I guess I just don't get it, right? And I know people will say, well, there's a lot of things that were invented and came out and people didn't get and thought it was never going to take off. But it's like, I just don't get it. Like, I've played video games my whole life. I still play Fortnite with my kids, or I play Madden football. But it's like, and it would be cool to put on a headset and be able to feel like I'm really on that football field playing or something. But it's still a video game. Like, when I take it off, I still got to go make dinner or get the kids in bed. Like, I just don't get like what they think is going to really take off from here. But what I guess concerns me is, have you seen that documentary on Netflix where those executives?
Social Dilemma?
Yeah.
I've not seen it, no. I canceled Netflix the moment they started putting out the child pedophilia stuff, like the whatever it was. But I was told you got to watch the Social Dilemma. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, like it's it's high former executives from all these different platforms. So from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, like literally the former either CEO or number 2 of Facebook, Tim something. He's on there, and they're just openly talking. And some of them are at new tech companies, right? Like, but what they're talking about is they're just saying, when we built some of these features and stuff on these platforms, they're basically saying some of them they didn't know was going to have the effect that they did. But once they saw the effect, they started speaking up or knew that there was going to be a future problem and they should probably scale back. And basically Zuckerberg, there was no scaling back. Like he didn't see the problem in it, or he didn't care. Like some of the things like the thumb up on Facebook. I forgot, they explained why they did that, and it was very innocent, the reason why they did it. But then now that's a huge issue with dopamine in kids and stuff, because they want that feeling of knowing that people liked or hearted or did something to what they the picture they put out there. But they talk about the one thing that was super alarming to me. I mean, the whole thing was very eye-awakening, because they go into depths of how their system works, like how Facebook works from the advertising side. And it's like, even being an agency that spends literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on Facebook every single year for my clients and for our agency, it's still very alarming to see the amounts of data that they have and the way that they are manipulating people to turn that into dollars and cents. But I will say that they showed statistics of kids cutting themselves and suicide from like the 80s and 90s, and the chart, it does not change at all, Mike. Like from 80s and 90s until like 2008 or 9, and it just skyrockets. I mean, it is nuts to see how it is affecting young people these days, because they need that. That's where they're getting their self-worth from, right? Like they post a picture and they need, and instead of, going to school where you may have a couple of, friends, or maybe one bully at school that may say something about you. Now you have the possibility of thousands of people saying you've got big ears or your teeth are jacked up or whatever. And it's like having that impact, because they're not, they're not mature enough. They're not socially or mentally mature enough to be able to handle that. So they think those people that they never see, I mean, like for me and you, I don't care if the 5,000 people on my Facebook wrote something negative about me right now. Like, who gives a shit? Like, let me check to make sure you're in one of my circles. I don't give a damn. But to a 17-year-old, they're wanting to go kill themselves because somebody said something about them. So it's scary to think that I feel like we're like the younger kids and all of us really, since Facebook and I guess what was before Facebook? MySpace, came out. It's just been priming us to want more. What is the next thing? And I'm just thinking, there's going to be people, especially young people, like the next generation. Let's say the generation that only came up on Facebook and Instagram, right? So those people, I think they're going to be more susceptible to like metaverse and other things. And it's like, could you imagine like what that is going to look like? It is going to be equivalent to a heroin addict that sits in their house all day just shooting up, because they're never going to want to leave. They're just going to keep their headgear on and just like never take a bath and just like eat from their little space where they play. Like it's scary to think.
It's coming. Yeah, you're right. By the way, I mean, think about when video games started to really take a hold of people. Kids weren't going outside anymore. If they now know that it's interactive, it's live, they're on a platform, they can control and manipulate and all that, they're going to do everything in their power, especially with AI. It's so powerful right now. They know how to entice someone to never leave. And therefore, they can keep making money from advertisements, from selling NFTs or whatever. It's a scary time. I am so glad, and Jonathan, like I'm 37, you said you're almost 40. Aren't you so glad that you grew up in a time without all this? Mm-hmm. I am so thankful. I mean, I can only imagine my parents thinking, like, video games, this is crazy, right? I can think it, but this is a whole different level. And I'm so thrilled that I woke up and I used to go outside, ride bicycles, play hockey, ride dirt bikes in the woods, because that gives me this sense of, you shut down everything right now. I'll go outside and run in the woods and I'm just as happy as ever. I don't know if you could say that for kids growing up nowadays.
No, and what's scary is like, think about the young people in school now and 10 years from now when they're having kids, like those kids that are going to be coming up where all they know is technology only. I mean, they're never going to experience what true friendships are, and like their friends are going to be in this fake metaverse land. I mean, it's like, I can't even wrap my head around it. I mean, and like Zuckerberg's talking about in that podcast, he's like, but I mean, it's just going to be a different reality because you're going to be able to touch and feel these people. I mean, like it's really creepy. The first thing that pops in my mind, look, I'm former law enforcement and I'm just a damn realist. The first thing that pops in my mind is like, this is opening a door for the pedophiles like there's no tomorrow. Like it is just screaming like this is the World Series or Super Bowl for these freaks. I mean,
good point there. That's exactly what this is opening up for. Is that more of stuff you don't want to happen? Because what's this doing? Blurring the lines. It's blurring the lines even more.
Yeah, it's just sad to think about. But you look at, like you said, like our grandparents or something, like to see the world today and like to see the world in maybe 30, 40, 50 years from now, like it's going to be something like we've never seen before. But and it's not like I'm against technology. Like I love some of the advancements. I love shit that Elon Musk is doing, and I'm proud for those people that want to go to Mars on a one-way trip. Like, go let me know that's sad. Like, that's sad to me that there's people out there that are willing to get on a rocket and knowing they're not coming back, that they don't have, like, anyone in their circle that worth enough to not want to make that, you know, trip. But I'm curious to know like what's out there. I don't want to be the one doing it. I got kids that I really love, but
yeah, you got this purpose and love for what you have right now. It is crazy that people will risk it all to do something like that. Like I said, or like you said, I'm all for technology. Facebook and all this stuff has allowed me to build an online business, and it's great. There is such an emphasis, though, on only the good and not the bad that's happening with it. If you just got to be weary and aware of the bad that's coming with it and somehow control that, it's very tough for the younger generation, I think, to see the bad side just yet. So we're able to see it because I guess we're a little bit more wise of what these bad guys are doing out there and what they're creating. But it's scary if you don't know the bad side that's coming along with this technology.
That's right. Well, man, we're getting close to our time. I want you to let people know, how can they reach you if they've got that idea, they've got that story that they feel, whether it could be a moneymaker for them or if it's just something they need that could be therapeutic or something that, you know, it would be worth all the money in the world if they knew that their story impacted someone else or could help someone else get over that adversity like they did. How can they reach you, and what does that process look like if they've got the story but they don't have a clue how to write a book?
Yeah, it's real simple. We make it easy for entrepreneurs to bring their story to life in a book in a very short amount of time. Typically, it's about 65 days. If you come to the table with 15 lessons you want to teach your audience, and you have stories that taught you that lesson, we'll sit down just like we're doing here, do a 2-hour interview one day and a 2-hour interview another day, and we go over those lessons and stories. And I just have a simple Q&A with you. You want to talk about why this system works? It's the Socratic method. Question, answer, question, answer. Afterwards, my team will write the book for you, send it to you. You get 2 edit run-throughs. We'll do cover design. We'll do bestseller status on Amazon. Once the book is up on Amazon and you're a bestseller, you own the book 100%. We will show you how to use it as a lead generator with software that I'm a partner in called Book Lead Pro. But typically, start to finish, 65 days, $5,000 down, $5,000 upon completion. The company is called Dream Starters Publishing. You go to www.dreamstarterspublishing.com. You can find out everything that I just told you and more. We've done about 256 books. And if you want to just have the shortcut to maybe an interview with me or just have a quick little Q&A, you can go to bookleadpro.com/start my book. And I can show you some of the books that we've worked on, such as this, and many, many more. And if you're an entrepreneur and you have something you want to share with the world, we'll make it easy for you to bring your book to life. So hopefully that helps. And once again, you can always reach out and ask any questions. Wherever you're at in the process, we're here to help.
Awesome. Mike, I appreciate you sharing that with my viewers. I appreciate you coming on the show. Obviously, I'll definitely have you back because you and I, it seems like we could talk about this shit all day long. So I
we just
appreciate
talk
it, man.
Conspiracies next time. All conspiracies. That's it. I'm in, man. Count me in.
I was waiting for Zuckerberg to kick me off Facebook again the other day because I saw where Biden had posted an article, or his article was about warning people not to get together for Christmas because Omicron, and it was only for the unvaccinated. So if you're unvaccinated, Omicron is going to basically kill you, is what the article said. And I posted it and said, if your son can go through years of heroin and hookers, I'm going to take my chance on Omicron. So and what I thought was funny is, like, anytime I post something, it typically gets, I'd say in the range of 20 to 60 likes and then at least a handful of comments. No engagement whatsoever. And I'm like, look, I understand how the, how Facebook and the algorithm works, but I just thought that was comical to think that they made sure to freeze that one up. It was like, you just censor me, baby. Just remove it. Like, don't embarrass me by not letting it be seen by anybody. But,
they're going to try. Can't let the bad guys win. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep exposing the light to people, and that's it.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I look forward to having you on next time.
Hey, thanks for trusting us with your book and everything. Can't wait to work with you in the future.
Absolutely.
And on future projects. So
can't wait.
Guys.
Thank you, Mike.